What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. I don't have a lot of information for you, but it's just going to be a little bit more of a story. Before I even got into YouTube, I was consuming information online, consuming content. I love video content. You remember way back in the day, I think it was called like Real streaming or something like that. And they had these tiny, like 2-inch wide by 1 inch tall embedded video streams, and they'd only be like 5 or 6 seconds. They were totally grainy. It was like watching video on a calculator, but man, that was like the internet's first attempt at live streaming stuff. And then obviously YouTube came around, and even YouTube in the early days was pretty rough. But one of the things that I was thinking about was podcasting has been around for a super long time. And back in the day, I was definitely into the outdoors, and there were not a lot of podcasts. And I had stumbled across a podcast called like the camping podcast or the daily camping podcast. And if any of you ever watched this or knows what I'm talking about, you can certainly let me know. But I can't remember if you actually had to download it to an app or if it was just on their website. What I think they had is like a website, and I won't say every day, every few days, a few times a week, they would post a video. And I think that's how I had to watch it. And then you would click on that and it would take you to this player and watch it. Anyway, I remember this because it's before I got into content creation, before I started my YouTube channel, which I think was like 2011. So I'm talking pretty early here, 2009, 2010, 2011. Maybe it was right at the early stages, 2012. Anyway, I remember there are these two guys. And if you've ever watched a YouTube channel called Iraq Veteran 8888, it's like that. There were just two guys. There wasn't a lot of production value. It was just a camera filming them. And I'm assuming it was some sort of like digital video camera. And they were sitting in camping chairs against a wall, and they would have like maps up on the wall. I think maybe they had a poster of a couple places. It's pretty basic. The wall of someone's garage or their basement is what I'm assuming. And it was just two dudes who liked camping, and they would sit and talk about a camping topic. They would often talk about products. And I remember they even did an episode called No More Water Bottles, because I don't know how many episodes about water bottles they did, but they would just talk about them, what they liked, those early product reviews, and there was no editing about it. The audio quality, I kind of remember, was probably the weakest part, is that it was very tinny, hollow, echoey, like a camera sitting 10, 15 feet away from you, recording everything. You could understand it for sure. That wasn't a problem. And you could see them, but the lighting wasn't amazing. It seemed like fluorescent lights above them, illuminating them, but certainly no umbrella lights or spotlights on them or anything like that. But you didn't need that. I don't know what the resolution would be, like 480p or something. But I watched every episode of these two guys, and it kills me that I don't remember their names. I don't remember the name of the show, but it was just like the camping podcast. I think that's why I subscribed to it, because I like camping and podcasting was like the thing. Anyway, so I don't know how long I watched their show, a year, 2 years maybe. And then they did this final episode. They were like, I don't know where this is going. I feel like we've covered every topic. We're going to call it quits. Thanks so much for the people. Who knows how many viewers they had around. At that time, there were no tools to even get a ballpark of how many viewers. Let's also say that this was very early on in the online content consumption space. So it's very possible that I was like one of 12. But it's also possible that maybe they had 1,000 and then it just wasn't going anywhere. It's not easy to get sponsorships and stuff at this point. And I'm assuming that they were just buying everything that they were reviewing, because companies weren't really even sending stuff. Like the term influencer wasn't really around. The reason I was thinking about it is because, man, they were so early, not only in just product reviews, but in the video and streaming space and embracing that. And they could have continued to level up their content and the audio and the video quality and done some editing and videotaped like their excursions and their outings and their explorations and reviewed trails and camps. It just, to me, I think about this where a lot of the guys that could have just, by virtue of getting in early, could have had such a big advantage. One of the reasons this channel even exists is just because I started early, just because I started over a decade ago. It just got some traction where there are literally countless people who are better at this, more talented, more knowledgeable, better editing, better production value, more likable, better looking. I don't know. No, probably, but more likable for sure. But there are just so many that don't have as much traction just because they started later. Maybe not even a lot later, maybe a little later. Maybe they're just starting now. It's a competitive space out there. There's a lot of competition for content. And so I'm very lucky in that regard. But I'm just thinking, man, I was just thinking about these two guys because they were likable guys. They had some personality, good chemistry between them, good experience. They were obviously passionate about what they were doing. And I was just thinking, man, if they had just continued, kind of pushed through all of that pioneering, yeah, I didn't know where it was going. Honestly, YouTube at the beginning, when I signed up my channel, would give you AdSense revenue right away because I don't know that they knew that was going to be a big revenue source. It was like 6 months later, I'd see a 1 cent balance on my AdSense account or whatever it was. But everyone was just trying to figure it out, right? No one knew what it was going to be, any of this was going to be. And I'm not saying that it was some guarantee that they were going to be the big camping channel, but they could have been. If they had just pushed through and kept doing it and kept leveling up as they kind of naturally made sense to, I wouldn't be surprised if that channel and those guys existed with 1.5 million followers. I wouldn't be surprised. And so I know a lot of guys that were pretty early in either YouTube or podcasting and kind of gave it up. There are people who were late and give it up. There are people who are late or just starting and blow up. There are people who started very early, but just also never blew up either. So it's hardly a guarantee. But when I think back to that, I don't know that there are really camping and gear channels that are my go-tos. You know, if I'm looking for something specific or review on some sort of tool or outdoor gear myself, I don't necessarily follow like channels that just exclusively do that. But I'm glad that they're out there, and these guys could have definitely made a go at it. Anyway, I'm just thinking about these guys, the OG, the original camping podcast or whatever it was called. I don't know if you ever came across it or have a link to them. I'm just kind of curious to see what those guys are doing or even interview them about their time doing some of the stuff at the very beginning. But that's just what I was thinking about. Guys that are in the space that were early adopters, that what could have been if they had continued to push through. And I remember watching them. I was sad when the podcast went away because it did introduce me to a lot of stuff that I didn't know about. But anyway, just my thought for the day. Peter Von Panda out.
Trust me, I know what I'm doing.